My name's Dave DeBoe, founder of MoneyPartnerFormula.com, and this show is built for everyday real estate investors who are actively doing deals and looking to scale using other people's money. So if you're an active real estate investor and you want to get featured on this show to talk about your own real estate and capital raising experiences, then just go to daveinterviewsyou.com. Now let's get rolling with this episode, and remember to subscribe for daily interview content. If you are a single family home real estate investor, chances are you've thought a little bit about getting into multifamily, starting to buy apartment buildings. You're not quite sure maybe how to do that. If you want to do that as an active partner or as a limited partner or just a passive investor, well, today's special guest, Jerry Miller, is a very experienced real estate entrepreneur. I believe he's got over 16 years of experience under his belt. Started off at the single family home space. And then he had that question as well a few years ago. How do I get involved in multifamily? He started off as a limited partner, as more of a passive investor. And since then, he's really scaled things up and become a general partner. So zooming in from lovely Fort Lauderdale, Florida, welcome, Mr. Jerry Miller.
Hey, thanks a lot. It's great to be here.
Awesome, Jerry. So, hey, tell us a little bit about your initial forays into real estate investing. Number one, I'm always curious, what was that spark for you that caused you to decide to quit doing whatever you were doing before or add on to real estate investing? How did you get interested in the first place?
Wow. That goes back. I was a kid right out of college and I worked for Florida Power and Light. That's the local utility in Florida. And, was mentored by one of the older engineers. And one day he looked, his name was Norm. He was a little sad. And I was, hey, what's up, Norm? He says, yeah, I talked to my financial advisor and I can't afford to retire in 2 years like I'd hoped.
Ooh,
And he was really downcast. The market had taken a little bit of a dip, and he had a lot in equities, and it had dipped more than they wanted, and you know he couldn't afford to retire. And I didn't know at that time what it meant, but I told myself I am not going to depend on forces that I cannot control for my retirement.
mm,
And so I just sort of tucked that away, and fast forward about, oh, good grief, how many years? My wife was pregnant with our third child, and in 8 months, I'm in the IT sector. We were laid off. Like everybody in the consulting world for that
wow.
company was laid
What,
off, and it was
what,
like,
what, what year was that, more or less, Jerry?
let's see, that was 2003.
Yeah.
So, after the big
.com
dot
bubble
com dot
bursting. Yeah.
bomb,
Yeah.
exactly. We boomed for Y2K, and then we contracted in the software world.
Yeah.
And so, I hadn't done anything about my retirement other than just the classical 401k. And I was kind of reminded, hey, I knew I needed to do something, and I never did. And so at that point, I'm like, hey, I can't put this on hold anymore. I need to look into things. Always kind of knew, thought real estate would be a good idea,
Yeah.
but it's time and money, right? You got to get educated. You got to have a little bit of money. And it was in about 2005, 2006, where obviously got a job, got back in the working world, didn't forget that I needed to do something, but I had to get my finances back in order, and have a little bit of extra, and
Yeah,
finally bought.
that's a bit of a lapse there between losing that job, getting the next one, plus having new babies showing up
Yes,
on your doorstep. That was
yes.
I imagine there's a little stress going on around that time.
Yeah, it was, but I do fairly well. I just took a step back and I said, okay, what's my bullseye, right? What do I want to do most, and then what's second best, what's third, what's fourth, and I had a very clear plan within a couple of days. And my worst case scenario is if I didn't have serious progress in 30 days, I was going to go sell used cars at CarMax, because I knew that I could.
Yeah,
Not certainly not the IT profession challenge and pay, but hey, I had a responsibility to my family,
I hear
and
you.
things actually worked out. I will tell people, if you're ever in that situation, do not hesitate to lean on your network.
Mm.
People that I barely knew that I had once worked with, I put out email blasts, LinkedIn, whatever, and said, hey, I'm looking. People that I barely knew bent over backwards to help me say, hey, I remember working with you and I liked you and I saw this opportunity and I think you could do it. And it really blew me away how people were going out of their way to help me when I thought, we were barely acquaintances, right? We weren't friends.
Yeah.
So definitely lean on your network and lean on their network for possible ideas.
No,
But
that's great advice. And
yep,
congratulations for just taking massive action in a situation where a lot of other people would kind of sit on their hands and just hope for the best. So, yeah.
true, true. But back to the real estate story, I was extremely motivated. I knew I had to do something, and when I did have a little bit of money put aside, me and my brother-in-law split our first rental property.
You did a
That's how
joint
we
venture right off the get-go.
that was we were both interested. We both had a little bit of money, and we were able to move forward. And when I bought my first property, I thought, hey, I'll do this. I'll get 5 or 10 properties. That with my 401k and Social Security, you know, that should be a comfortable retirement. Fast forward, it was about 3 years that I had five, and I asked myself, am I done now? And the answer was, well, no, dummy. I mean, if you can do this and they can cash flow, why would you stop? Right? That was the epiphany.
Yeah.
And at that point, I learned that it's actually easier to buy 13 houses than it is to buy one house. I bought a small investor out. He had 13 houses, and I bought them all. And
All in one
the
fell swoop.
process with the bank was easier, quicker, faster. It blew me away. Well, actually, it wasn't faster. It took a little longer to get a commercial appraisal as opposed to an individual residential appraisal. But the commercial process is a different animal in terms of how they evaluate to it's all about the rent. It's called a DSCR, a debt service coverage ratio loan. So they're looking at
So
how.
I'm gonna pause you for a second, Jer. Do you mind tilting your screen down so we can see your whole face?
Oh, I am so sorry. I think my camera just fell.
There we go.
Hey, thanks for that. I
No
Let
worries.
me pay attention to that. Yep.
Oh, you're looking good. So go ahead.
Um.
You're talking about
So
debt service ratios.
yeah, and about the at that point, having five houses went from five to 18 and just really continued to grow. I had a great relationship with the bank. I understood how, to get the loans approved. Again, it was easier to buy the multiples than the individuals. And so I started moving forward, buying, groups of homes rather than individuals. And that worked fairly well.
And
Even
you were
experience
self-financing all your stuff at this time or
I
still
would
with your
usually
brother-in-law?
come up with the down payment that was funded from my day job. But
Yeah.
listen, there were deals. This smaller bank, it was not selling on the secondary market. This bank would actually loan on the appraised value of the properties, independent of what I was paying for it. So
Hmm.
there were times where I was cashing out at the closing table.
The good old
Um,
days.
those loans don't really exist anymore. But once I saw that and I understood how to profit by it, I'm at the point now where I've got 48 single family homes. That's the last one I bought was about 3 years ago. Um, the bank changed, the loans changed,
Yeah.
and my desire to continue in single family changed because it was about 4 years ago that I invested in my first limited partnership on the commercial side. And once I found commercial, I was kind of hooked. I
Well,
haven't
let
seen
me
the
ask you
need.
this, Jerry. Did you keep working at your W-2 all that time, or have you transitioned into real estate full time at this point?
So I still have my W-2. I am
Mhm.
still a software consultant. I've been growing my real estate slowly. My general partner roles, I typically take roles that I can do outside of my day job hours. So nights, weekends, etc.
Yeah.
Obviously, I do miss the occasional day of work here or there to attend conferences and other types of things. But I'm continuing to sort of have the dual role. I have some pretty ambitious goals for my retirement. I've got two in college right now, so the education expense is still fairly high. So I like that. I like the security of that day job. And
Yeah.
so at a point where my youngest is, projected to be 3 years out of college, that's the point where I'll look around and say, "Hey, where's my passive income? Where can I take my income, when I transition full time to real estate, and am I now comfortable that this is the number that I want for uh, what I call pre-retirement, because I want to continue to mentally engage and to be involved in real estate deals. I just want to be able to do them when I want to, not when somebody else dictates office hours.
Well, yeah, that's a great thing to be looking forward to and working towards. I want to kind of ask you a little bit about that transition from single family home investor, although it sounds like you're buying them in multiples. So it was almost, you were
Yep.
kind of a multifamily investor buying portfolios, but that transition from there to limited partner, passive investor. So more importantly, the limited partner to active GP. How did that come about? And because you are so busy doing so many different things, what do you bring on as a GP with these kind of projects? What's your specialty? What's your secret
Sure.
sauce?
There's really two distinct transitions. We'll break them down one at a time. The transition to limited partner as investing in commercial, that was really just redeploying my rollover IRA. So I had IRAs from previous companies. I have my own consulting software company. So I created a solo 401k because I didn't love the returns in the stock market, and I was
Yep.
looking for alternatives to that. And initially, I thought I would invest a portion. I mean, the diversification playbook says, 5 to 10% of your portfolio should be in alternative investments, of which real estate is the most common alternative investment. So I thought, all right, let's look at that. And I took a minimum position in a real estate syndication for a multifamily by moving some money into that solo 401k and invested that. I was happy with that investment. Within probably about 18 months, I had ended up moving all of my money out of the stock market.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, how long did you continue following the man's playbook,
Y-
and who
y-
wrote that damn playbook in the first place, right?
well, that's the funny part, right? I mean,
Yeah.
expert advice is good until it's not, right? Until you understand,
It, that
you
they
know,
only get paid a commission if you buy their stuff, basically.
well, there is something to that, and you are the master of your own ship, and you've got to decide, is the advice that I'm getting in my best interest.
Yeah.
I actually, my personal advisor is a friend of mine, and I still like him. We're still friends. I told him, I was like, Reed, the returns are better. Why would I go back to the diversified, stocks and bonds and everything
Yeah.
else? Like, and so I've moved everything over. I've not regretted that. I don't recommend that for everybody. You do need to be prepared for the risks. In the stock market world, it's very, very unlikely that you'll ever lose 100% of your principal. Depending on how you invest in real estate, there are some fabulous returns with some out of this world risk, and you just
Mhm.
need to be prepared for that. That if you invest in something risky looking for that high return, that's great. You need to be prepared to lose that, because that can and does happen. So once I had moved everything into the syndications, it was about four different syndications with different amounts, and I did actually diversify different asset classes, different cities. I used the same diversification playbook. I just applied it in a little different way, so that if any one deal, maybe doesn't thrive, that isn't necessarily going to impact the others. That was
Yeah.
the reasoning. And some of those are actually they're still, typical syndication hold is 3 to 5 years. Some of that money is still Most of that money is still tied up in different syndications, although probably the first big payday should happen late this year. You don't get to spend it because it just goes back in that solo 401k, but then the thinking is that I'll split that into two syndications with the next investment. Um, but in the process of really studying what was best for me, what makes a good syndication, I really began to question, how in the world does a syndication, pay an 18% internal rate of return? Because none of my single family homes had ever done that kind of number. And so, in the interest of unpacking that, you get into the world of what's called underwriting, which underwriting is the financial model that allows, either an operator or a bank to forecast what is that property worth, and it's based on cash flow, it's based on expenses, it's lots of deep analysis that you get into there. And that's what put me on a path of uh, you know, podcasts and books and real estate conferences. I actually joined the Michael Blanc mentorship.
Mhm.
He's a multifamily educator. Good
Yep.
program, good
Yeah,
guy.
we've had him on the show. He's a very
Yep.
smart guy. Yep.
And he's got a really great underwriting tool. And in fact, actually, I should have told you that I bought the underwriting tool as $100 on his website, and I sort of self-taught myself underwriting, and that's when I realized I could really use a mentor here because there's a whole lot more,
Yeah.
than just a Excel spreadsheet. And so that was the beginning of seeing how an 18% return could be delivered and what assumptions go into producing that return, and what's conservative, what's too aggressive, what's the right balance there. I could now read the underwriting model from the limited partners that were sending me all this data, because before it was just numbers on a spreadsheet. I didn't quite understand how they were created. um, but once I understood that, then the door was open to, I need to figure out how to get into the general partnership.
Mhm.
And the best way I can say it is, when you're a limited partner, I want you to imagine a chess set, right? 8 by 8 square, right? And on that top row is 8 squares. Let's I think there's really about four major areas that you need to have skills to be in a general partner team, and you need at least one of those. But let's just assume there's eight different skills that would encompass all of real estate. That I'm overly simplifying it because there's lots of different deep skills. You need to be familiar with all eight of those as a limited partner. You need to understand the language. You need to understand what they mean. You need to understand what adds more risk, what reduces risk, how can things make money, how can they lose money. Let's call it the commercial real estate, 101, or the basics. If you want to be on the general partner, you need to take one of those squares, finding deals, analyzing deals, funding deals, or operating deals, and you need to go deep, right?
Yeah.
And you need to have a deep understanding of, in my case, I decided I wanted to go deep on capital raising. So, finding accredited investors, helping match them to deals that align with their risk tolerance, that align with their financial goals. I've got quite a bit of asset strategy. That's the operation of the assets because of my single family home experience. There's a lot of similarities with the process of leasing, renovating, managing. I will say that commercial is different than residential, but a lot of your common skill sets can be well applied to commercial. And so my role has been both capital raising and asset strategy in the multifamily, space. And so I usually partner with the folks that find and underwrite the deal, and they're usually the boots on the ground. So
Yeah.
my two markets are Charlotte, North Carolina, and Dallas, Texas, because that's where I've got partners.
Very, very good. Well, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Now, let me ask you this, because that's a whole new skill set that it sounds like, the raising capital side of things, you didn't really have to do that much before with your own portfolio. You were
True.
self-financing with the bank and all that kind of good stuff. What's been your biggest learning curve around uh, finding accredited investors and getting them signed on for your your partnerships, for your
I
syndications?
would say when I started raising capital, started with kind of friends and family, and they knew I was into real estate. So I had a very high degree of credibility. And in fact, some of them were like, just, Jerry, tell me where to sign. Like, I know you do this stuff, so
Yeah.
I know you know this. And I was like, no, you need to slow down. You need to understand this. You need to understand the risks and the rewards. Um, I would say when I started, I thought the deal sold itself. In other words, but if I show you a building and I show you the plan and I show you the numbers, I thought people would just sort of sign up for that. And I was wrong.
You thought they would connect the dots by themselves. Yeah.
Right. The reality is people are really investing in you,
Yeah.
and they only invest you if they know you, if they like you, and if they trust you. So yes, you need to be competent, but you also need to have their best interest at heart. So you need to be able to listen to what are their goals and what are their objectives. Um, in the beginning, it kind of felt like I was a used car salesman and I was forcing the sale. And I really took a step back and I began to realize, no, I'm actually doing them a favor, because right now, you know, the people that I talk to don't have access to commercial real estate.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily understand how does a syndication work where 30 people can get together and buy a $10 million apartment building.
Mhm.
And so now that I realize my role is really education, and as people understand how to invest and they understand what their goals are, they're the ones to come and tell me, hey, Jerry, I think I really want to be a part of, a syndication, or I want to be a part of, we've got a debt fund that's it's a more conservative position. So the risk reward meter is across the board, and so
Mhm.
it really depends on what your individual financial goals are. And so we try and slow down and talk to people about what they're looking for, so that we've got, I think we've done a really good job of aligning deals with investors, and we just continue to do that.
That's awesome. All right, Jerry, you got to wrap things up here. So if people want to find out more and connect with you, where can they go?
Absolutely. So website is the front door. It's Largo Group, uh, 2011, the year we founded, .com. And so you can go there. You can connect with me on LinkedIn if you prefer. There's lots of ways that you can get on our marketing list. You can book a call. Whatever level of engagement anyone wants to do is pretty much there on that website.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much for being a guest on the show. Really appreciate it. And congratulations on that whole trajectory. It's fantastic. Keep up the good
Thank
work.
you. Appreciate that. You
All right,
take care.
everybody, take care, and we'll talk to you on the next episode. Hey there, I really hope you enjoyed that episode. And as always, if you want to listen to more daily interview content, make sure you subscribe. And if you're an active real estate investor and you're doing deals and you'd like to get featured on this show, then just head over to daveinterviewyou.com. Now, at moneypartnerformula.com, we help real estate investors to create a process for predictably getting capital so they can do more deals without relying on hard money lenders or the banks. We do this by building them a private capital marketing system. Now, if you want help turning yourself into a big money capital attraction machine, then book a call with our team to see how we can help. Just visit moneypartnerformula.com to find out more. All right, take care, and we'll see you on the next interview.